Hello, welcome to Queer Cinema Catch-Up. I'm Joe.
And I'm Allison.
And today we have a returning guest, Casey from Sassy Grilled Cheese. Casey, how are you?
Hey, Casey.
Hey, I'm good. Thank you so much for allowing me to come back on your show.
Yeah.
Well, we were thrilled. And, you know, we kind of thought of this movie last time. We talked a lot about how we did Freaky Friday and we classified it as a pink movie. I believe that was your phrase, Casey. And then we thought if we do another pink movie, we kind of need to bring Casey back. And so maybe this can be our little exploration of pink films together.
I love it.
Our
we
pink
can make
series.
it a tradition.
Yeah.
And what would you say a pink film is again?
You know, anything that was classified as a chick flick in the early 2000s is what I would classify as a pink film. But I guess it doesn't have to be in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. Just anything that's hyper feminine.
Which this is. And the movie is 13 going on 30.
Oh my God, best movie ever.
I have to agree. It really held up for me. But there's somebody here who might be a first-time viewer.
This was my first time seeing 13 going on 30.
Wait, this was your first time?
Yeah.
Joe.
I just missed the mark. And I have 3 sisters. I'm just surprised that I never saw it.
I'm just shocked because even as this movie, as we were watching it again, so much of it was as if I blinked and I was 14, 15 years old again watching it. I remembered everything. And I loved this film back then, and I still love it today.
So you mean to tell me that you don't watch this movie every week?
From now on, I'll do my weekly viewing of 13
Monday
going on 30.
morning, 6 a.m., all adults in their 30s start their life by watching 13 going on 30 to remember what matters.
And why it's important to be 30, flirty, and thriving.
Exactly.
So when did you first watch this movie? How are you introduced to it?
And any shifting thoughts now as an adult?
Oh my God. Wow, great question. I watched this movie the first time when it first came out in 2004. And I didn't see it in theaters. I watched it on DVD. But I think watching it as a kid and then watching it as an adult, you definitely have a different perspective. Because, as a kid, I remember watching it and thinking, oh my gosh, it's so funny. This teenager is now an adult, and I would imagine myself if I woke up as a 30-year-old, but watching it as an adult, a lot of the jokes in the movie feel a lot different. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think that is just interesting thinking about when you're a kid watching it versus when you're an adult watching it.
Do you have an example? I mean, we can come to it naturally, but I'm just curious if there's an example of a joke that stood out to you now.
Oh my gosh. When she approaches the kid at the bar.
Yeah, that part.
It's funny, though, because she's supposed to be 13. But, as a kid, you think it's funny. And then, as an adult, you look at that and you're like,
it's horrifying. And the fact that her friend that just took her out into the street was like, all right, let's go back on our lives. And nobody was like, we need to talk about what's going on with you. Yeah, and I don't think you could do that joke in the reverse with a 13 going on 30, a male version. I think that would be very disturbing to see. And it should be as disturbing.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah. But she is 13 though.
Yeah.
That's what I kept, because I was thinking am I rationalizing this right now? Am I going to give this a pass? I'm thinking but she is 13. She literally doesn't know. She's just going through the world and doing her best.
Yeah.
And she's drawn to the people she would be drawn to at 13, which does kind of freak me out that at the end, spoiler alert, everybody, at the film, it's lovely that they go back in time to kind of write the timeline so that she ends up with Mark Ruffalo's character. But then they still skip ahead. She never gets to experience her youth.
Well, we don't see her experience her youth.
I kind of interpreted it as she went back and fixed it. And then they oh, we're going to be late. Let's go. And then they flash forward to the future.
When I first watched it, that's what I thought. That's what I assumed. But I think now looking at it, I interpret it as she just lives her whole life. And good. Because it wouldn't really make sense that she just wakes up and she's 30 again.
You need the wishing dust.
Because then Matt would have to wake up and he's 30.
That's true. That would be a tragedy.
He'd walk out the front lawn and be like, where am I?
Well, also, it's important for the themes of the movie. She has to go back and relive her childhood, teenage years, and adulthood
to learn the lesson
of being kind to Mark to end up with him in the end. That's the reward. She can't go back in time and then sprinkle fairy dust and immediately go.
Why not?
To the ceremony.
Why can't we use our 30 dust? Our 30 dust?
Our 30.
Our fairy dust. Well, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, some of the jokes feel a little bit stranger with adult eyes.
Oh, and then when the guy's stripping for her.
Yes.
Like as a kid, I thought, oh my gosh, it's so funny he's taking off his clothes. And then I'm thinking like, oh my God, if I was 13 years old and I woke up in a 30-year-old woman's body and some man was taking off his clothes, I would be shitting on the floor. I would be freaking out.
Yeah, I would be very scared as well. I definitely would have been very scared.
Or just like doing anything. Just doing anything as an adult. Like, oh my God.
She's remarkably calm. I mean, yeah, she's freaking out, but she gets taken to an office and has to go sit in on a meeting and has to participate in the meeting. I don't know. She's not
bawling in tears.
I would have been
not crying.
Incapable. I'd be like, I didn't have a chance to study for this. I'm not ready.
Yeah.
Okay. So Joe, as a first-time viewer, what were your takeaways or thoughts or feelings about the film?
It's a very cute movie. Jennifer Gardner looks amazing.
She does.
Incredible.
Oh, yeah.
And Mark Ruffalo looks incredible too. And then who's the third? Who's that woman from
Tom
Arrested
Tom
Development?
is played by...
I just know her as Tom Tom.
I
don't know her from anywhere else.
Judy Greer.
Judy Greer.
She, a couple years ago, had a whole profile, I think in the New York Times, about how she often plays kind of the best friend and how her career has really been forged that way and what her thoughts and feelings about that are. I don't remember the article. I read it at one time, but I recommend people check it out. Judy Greer.
Wasn't she in The Wedding Planner as Jennifer Lopez's friend?
I haven't seen that in so long. I don't even remember it.
I think she might be.
Here, I'll look up her IMDb.
Judy Greer is just... she's just like in so many comedies and she's really good.
Judy Greer, I haven't really seen her in much, but I loved her in this movie. Like, even though she's supposed to be the villain, like, I don't know, she
killed
did really
it
well in the film.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go and look to see what else she was in around that time.
She was definitely in Arrested Development and she plays the like side piece to one of the guys and she just is like hilarious in that.
She was in The Village.
I remember her in The Village.
That.
I swear she's in The Wedding Planner.
Yep. 2001, The Wedding Planner. What Women Want.
Oh, she's in What Women Want also. Yeah. So a lot of love for Judy Greer. But yeah, this was just a very like fun movie. The scenes I did know, like I knew that she wore the nightgown to work and then she does the Thriller dance at the party. And those are kind of like the moments that I knew before going into the movie. And I wouldn't say like overall the movie I thought was like enjoyable, but I don't know if there were like any other like standout scenes for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe it's just nostalgia. Maybe it's just because I grew up with it.
That's what I talked to Allison about. I think there's a difference between watching this as like a kid and then
watching it as an adult.
Watching it as an adult, not having the nostalgia for it. But it was like I enjoyed it a lot. Like it wasn't a knock on it. I just thought those two. Yeah. I mean, strangely enough, the two scenes that I knew from childhood are the ones that stick with me when I watch the movie.
Okay, well, I was just gonna say, kind of in the opposite way of you, Casey, and you, Joe, I guess. In a different way.
I forgot my name for a second. And you, who are you again?
What's your name?
I know we are roommates.
I just flashed back.
I've forgotten your
13.
name.
I'm back again. I don't remember the rest of my life. So can you please tell me what's going on?
We knew each other at 13.
But I was just going to say that I remembered fondly the scenes that you mentioned, and I remembered that I really liked this movie. But I guess I didn't remember that the messages of the film were so wholesome. Like the idea that she becomes 30 and she doesn't learn that adult life. I mean, she learns that adult life is hard, but that's not really the message of the movie. The message is more that you have to learn to treat other people well and be kind and compassionate. And she kind of grew up to be someone she wouldn't be proud of if her 13-year-old self knew her. To me, I was like, wow, that's such a interesting message and one that I don't think is often like seen in media today. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I also like that they're in their 30s and they're still having fun.
Yeah, it's not looked at as like, oh, you're not 23 anymore. Like your life is over. It's almost portrayed as your life is just now starting. Like this is where you want to be.
I kind of think that's a little bit. It should be seen that way because it's your brain is fully developed. You have a lot of life experience. You're still young enough that you can go out and do fun things and explore and experience new things. But you just have a little bit more, what's the word when you know what's going on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know what's going on. You have more power than you do.
She doesn't have kids, and neither does Tom Tom. So it's like it's not showing this message that you have to have kids by the time you're 30, and you have to have a house and this and that. And I don't know. I love that message. I guess I get what you're saying, Joe, about looking at this movie not as someone who grew up with the film, because the storyline is a little bit cliche. We've seen it time and time again, like the movie Big with Tom Hanks. I feel like this movie's been told a million times.
17 again.
17 again.
Working girl with the magazine presentation and her idea getting stolen.
I was like, Working Girl does not have a time travel storyline, Joe.
Well, like what you were saying, Allison, there are a lot of wholesome elements to this movie that I really enjoy. I think what made this movie work, oddly enough, is that she had a good relationship with her parents.
Yes.
Because I feel like if she didn't, the scene where she goes back home and they're playing the Billy Joel song, I don't think it would be as powerful if like she, I don't know,
Absolutely.
wasn't unappreciative of, when she was a kid and stuff. And her parents were like actually good people.
Isn't that her parents are really good people, but Jenna, before she like transfers into her 30-year-old body, has an estranged relationship with her parents, right?
So
they
I
said
think
that she doesn't call anymore.
So that what kind of seems, so in the past, and she's 13, she's just being a typical 13-year-old to them, like, go upstairs, Dad. And then when they flash forward, her secretary, this is kind of the clue where she's not the nicest person, is clearly afraid of Jenna. And then says something like, oh, your parents called. And she's like, well, why didn't you tell me? And the secretary says,
Right.
well, you told me never to put your parents through. So I think it's kind of like she just mostly avoids them. And then when she goes home in that very moving scene, she says, sorry, I didn't come home for Christmas at one point in time. So I think the idea is, but her parents are good people who know who she really is on the inside.
It's that their parents are good people. Like if her parents were shitty people, I just feel like that would.
No,
it wouldn't drive that home very well.
Absolutely not. And that is an interesting point, that the movie really is told from a specific perspective, because a lot of kids maybe wouldn't have that same feeling of comfort from their childhood. No. You know what I mean? So that's a very good point, that maybe the movie is kind of told from a privileged point of view.
Oh, it absolutely is. Because, I mean, if you look at their houses, like her and Matt's house, they live in a nice neighborhood.
Yeah, it's very beautiful.
Like they have money,
Definitely.
Matt, by the way, he was 1000% my first crush as a kid.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like I adored Matt, the character. I thought that it was so horrible that what's her face just did not care about him. And he showed up with his Casio. And she just didn't even care. He built her a Jenna dream house.
I know,
from
so
hand,
sweet. It was so sweet
with his hands, and with the glitter, and didn't care. You know what? I was like, you deserve better, Matt.
I also remember as a kid watching that, and I definitely understood that she felt really humiliated. Like I felt bad for her, but when she like pushes him away, I remember feeling so upset because I just thought it was such a mean thing to do, and that he didn't know what was going on. And I had a hard time. I had a hard time accepting what was going on.
Why are you being so mean to Matt?
Yeah,
he's your bud. Nice. He's there for you.
I wouldn't say it's that she didn't care, but she was just so ashamed and so wanted to be part of this clique that she would do anything, even trample over her very sweet friend Matt.
So I mean, look, she was 13, but I still was upset with Jenna. I thought that was so mean.
No, because it was a hint of who we got that window into what she was like as a 30-year-old being a mean girl that we never, it would have been interesting. We never see it, but to see how like 30-year-old Jenna acted before she transferred from her 13-year-old self to like see how like cruel she was.
Yeah.
That they didn't need to do that. But yeah, it's like that was like the hint how awful she was being to Matt is how she started treating everybody in her work life. Just
that would be cool.
Trampling over everyone to get to where she wants.
It would have been it would have been cool to see Jennifer Gardner do both bits as well. That would have been really interesting.
Yeah.
But Joe and I were saying when we watched the beginning, I think they did the bullying very well. Like it felt very realistic. But I just turned to him and I was like, would you ever have been so mean like back then? And bullies, I don't understand sometimes how they come about. Like I just can't. I mean, I know that it's probably what they've seen at home or whatever it might be, but I don't know. We recently saw something else with some bullying in it. Oh, it was Yellow Jackets, and the bullying was really shallow and stupid. And then this felt a little bit more grounded. So I appreciate the
13 going on 30.
Yeah. It felt more realistic. Like, oh yeah, we'll come. Maybe not the big group of people coming over, but the idea that, oh yeah, we'll come, and then leaving. making fun of her. I felt like that felt more real.
Yeah.
But I still didn't understand it. It was so mean.
Well, and then also because they're middle schoolers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think if it was high schoolers, it would feel a little bit exaggerated. But middle schoolers would 1000% do something like this.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Especially in the 80s, even though I wasn't alive in the 80s.
It just feels like it would have happened in the 80s.
Right. What else is there to do?
Mm-hmm. Hey, and a surprise Brie Larson appearance.
Oh, yeah.
In The Click.
She's been acting for a long time.
She has.
She's one of the 6 chicks.
Yeah.
The 6 chicks. And then I thought it was funny when Maddie, she's like, maybe I'll be one day. And he's like, there's not going to be 7 chicks in the 6 chicks.
Oh, and what a like random Razzles sponsorship.
Okay, what is a Razzle? We've never had one.
You've never had Razzles?
No.
I was going to try to get one on Amazon to have today, but.
Okay. I'll admit, I only knew what Razzles were because of this movie. So as a kid, I would buy Razzles, but it was only because of that movie.
Right.
How do they taste? It's candy, but also gum.
Yeah, they take, well, okay, now that I'm thinking about it, they're really not that good. Like,
wait, so it's a piece of candy that becomes gum?
Yeah.
Then I think I have had it before. I just didn't know.
They're like, they come in little tablets. They look like, they look like vitamins. And they taste like vitamins. And then they turn into gum.
I was obsessed with gum when I was a kid, and I wasn't really allowed to have it unless it was on an airplane. So my mom just hated gum. And so any gum product.
Allison has her blueprint up right now of everything we're talking about on the episode. We're now in the gum section of this podcast.
No, we're not.
Are we?
No, we're not.
I will add, I remember being 8 years old and having my first piece of gum. My mom allowed me to. She got like the double mint from Target.
And it tastes so good.
Yeah. Casey, what was your first time having gum? Do you like gum?
It's not something I think about often. Okay, not really. I mean, I don't mind the taste of gum, but it gets old really fast. Like I can only chew it for maybe 2 minutes. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. I don't know how people can just like keep a piece of gum in their mouth for like all day. I don't get it.
I have that problem. I forget that I'm like chewing on it, and then like by the end of the day,
it's like it makes me want to gag.
I just love the constant
chewing rubber.
I love the constant like freshness, but then I guess the freshness
not fresh
fades.
anymore though. It tastes like rubber.
Jenna and Maddie would be very upset with you right now.
With me?
Well, they're being paid to talk about Razzles,
They
so
love
I don't
Razzles.
want to hear from them.
It's part of their bond as friends.
Yeah.
They absolutely sat in their beautiful pink house once they moved in, and they had some Razzles.
Yeah, which reminds me, so we talk about this movie as a great like importance on emphasizing you don't need to reach certain milestones at certain ages.
Of course, but it does end.
But then it's the whole thing is like, I've made all these choices in my life that I regret. I focused so much on my career. I didn't focus on finding love and getting married and buying a house.
But I don't interpret it as her focusing. It's not like The Devil Wears Prada, where the message, if you really, it's a great love The Devil Wears Prada, but the message really is, wow, she was too ambitious and her boyfriend got mad at her and she made all the wrong choices, instead of it being like a little bit more nuanced than that. Whereas this movie, I feel like she was a bad person, Jenna, who happened to be very good at her job, but in the end, she still succeeds at her job by being authentic and kinder. And then, of course, Tom steals the work. But I don't interpret it as she shouldn't have leaned in at work. I more interpret it as she needed to move through the world differently.
Yeah.
But I do hear you. It does, of course, end with a wedding and a big house. And well, you know, that's, what can we do? That's the trope of rom-coms.
I'm being facetious. It didn't affect me too much, but I think it's funny that's the only way it can end. And is I was like, when at the peak of the movie, Jenna goes to visit Mark's character, Matt, as he's about to get on his wedding day. And it's like a very emotional scene where she's like talking to him. And
yeah, wait, let's think about that scene. So basically what happens is she turns up to say, I know I haven't been the best person, but it's not who I am on the inside. And I love you. And he goes, I've had these feelings the last few weeks. It's only been a few weeks since she woke up and turned 30. And it has made me think about things, but I chose, I forget the other woman's name. Let's say it was Penny. And, we do care about each other and this is the life I'm choosing. And it was kind of like he was giving this very adult explanation of, I have responsibilities. I've made promises. I care about someone. I can't just walk away because I suddenly feel infatuation. And she, as 13, and can't really understand that. And I thought it was kind of sad because earlier in the movie he said he hadn't felt deeply about anyone since he was really young, like since high school. So he had never really fallen in love again, was my interpretation. So anyway, what did we think about this moment in the film? If anything. You had no thoughts.
I do have some thoughts.
Joe had no thoughts.
Casey.
Thank you, Casey.
One, Matt is a little punk as much as I love him, because why was he getting married to this woman to begin with?
I don't know. If he doesn't love her, what's going on?
Even in the beginning, even from the get-go, when he sees Jenna again, he doesn't even mention this woman is in his life.
Yeah.
Like, when I meet people, one of the first things I talk about is that I'm with my husband, and like, you know, it's like we do things together.
Yeah.
So if I'm talking about, I don't know, what I did last weekend, I'm going to talk about my husband in some way because of that. So Matt just pretends like she doesn't even exist. He sees this woman that he hasn't seen in 15 years?
Yeah, exactly.
And just pretends like he's just single. And weird. It seems like, yeah. And throughout the movie, when we meet, what's her name? I don't even remember her name. That's how forgettable this character was.
I know, me neither.
They're talking about how they're in like this long distance relationship, and that they have to move, but Matt isn't really too keen on the idea. And I don't know, it just seems like he is really uninterested in her. She seems like she knows that he's uninterested in her. And I'm just wondering, like, why are they getting married?
Are we supposed to interpret that as two people in contrast to sort of Jenna and Tom, two people in life who are in their 30s and feel like, oh, this is the thing I have to do, like settle down and get married, and they're not really into one another in the way that they wish that they were, but they just feel like they're going through the motions of adulthood? Is that the interpretation?
Maybe.
Or is it just
I don't
convenient
know
for the plot?
Yeah, I don't know if it's if I interpret it to be that deep. I think that the movie just needed to have Matt be in a relationship to make the dynamic between him and Jenna more complicated.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just think regardless, Matt just was not ready to get married to this woman. He didn't love, even if Jenna was in the picture, he just was not interested in this woman. And the fact that he still had feelings for a woman that he hasn't really spoken to since he was 13 or 14 years old is kind of crazy. Like,
it's giving like Snape still being upset that Lily has passed away like 18 years later.
Imagine you're with a man and he's like, sorry, I just can't get over these feelings over this girl I've had a crush on since I was 13. What?
It would be very strange.
What? You're in your 30s.
It's been a long time. And that's what it was so sad to me when he said he's never felt so deeply as he had when he was in high school. Like,
I had mixed feelings.
First feelings are really intense and stuff like that, like first love, but the idea that you're in a serious relationship, you're going to get married and you've never experienced that feeling again, like it made me feel really sad inside.
I think though that this movie is like 13 going on 30 is made for like kids and like preteen girls, specifically high school girls. And I think they're like relying on people watching it to have watched romantic comedies in the past, because they really don't give. I think that Matt's fiance is strictly there to complicate the plot, and they're not really interested in exploring it. Like, we're all like going in deep on this, and I think it's all like really interesting, but I don't think they're like asking us to like really think about it.
Definitely brings
but I
it
think it's like plugging it, like as you were talking about time traveling movies earlier, and I said Working Girl, which I didn't realize that's not what we were doing, but there's like a little bit of Working Girl in this movie, and then specifically with like the love triangle, there's the My Best Friend's Wedding connection, and in My Best Friend's Wedding, it tells it from like who would be Matt's fiance's. No, it tells it still tells it from Jenna's perspective, but then Matt's fiance would still get like equal weight in the story to like show what she's like.
Absolutely.
And this movie's not focused on that.
I don't think it should have been focused on that.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, like I'm bitching and whining, but I think they did it exactly how they should have done it. Like, I think that if Matt wasn't in a relationship when Jenna woke up and turned 30, it would be hard for me to care about whether or not they were going to end up together, because it would feel too predictable. But the fact that like he's kind of a complicated character in a lot of ways, I feel like that's the only reason it made their relationship more interesting.
Yeah.
So
I would say too, like, Joe, you just made me think, like, yes, it's like disturbing to us as adults to hear that Maddie kind of is hung up on this 13-year-old crush that he had, or deep feelings that he had for this.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's disturbing at all.
No,
actually.
I don't think so either. But I think it's stupid.
I think it's like in real life that would be a little like depressing.
Yeah.
But in the terms of the movie, you were pointing out this is directed at teenage or preteen girls, and it's therefore taking their feelings very seriously because they probably had these like great loves that they're experiencing or great crushes, and the idea that this would still matter to them at 30. Like, of course, you should respect the feelings of the audience, and in their minds, they're not adults yet. That might very well be true, and so I think it's actually kind of sweet that they let it be a serious element of the movie because the kids watching, they got their notes that they're going to pass to their crushes. They're going to hope that they dance with them at the dance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it all seems very high stakes back in the day.
Yeah,
totally. And I think overall, this movie, it has a finished plot as a start, middle, and end.
Absolutely, it's well
and
constructed.
I know that seems like it's not very much to ask, but so there all too many times, or far too many times, I should say, I rewatch movies from my childhood or just movies from this time, and the plot doesn't feel finished, or there's like a bunch of issues with the plot, or I don't feel satisfied at the end. Like, as much as I love Devil Wears Prada, like both of you were talking about, I hated the way that they portrayed the lead character's career and how she was somehow wrong for taking some time and putting her career first when it was supposed to be temporary. And so I don't know, like I had a problem with that. Like this movie, there wasn't really anything that I truly had a problem with story-wise. It felt like it started and then ended, and that's why I love it so much.
Yeah. And I
feel like it's well written.
I completely agree. Like, even the way it crescendos to the end, and then it seems like Jenna's not going to get what she wants, and it's going to be like a tragic ending or a heartbreaking ending, and then the fun twist of the dust coming back into it.
Yes.
And cycling back feels like a perfect button on the film and a perfect way to honor the fun and whimsy of the movie. I did just look up the writers. There is a writing team, Josh Goldsmith and Kathy Uspa. They're best known for 13 Going on 30, but they started their career writing for sitcoms in the late 1990s and early 2000s, which and they were producers as well on The King of Queens, which to me, I feel like if you're back in the day, you were in a bunch of writers' rooms where there were 24 episodes each season. I feel like your craft, you have to hone it and you have to be really good at it because you got to churn these episodes out so quickly, and you just have a lot of practice. And it's definitely a lost art today where there's not as many writers' rooms, and they don't write as long of seasons. And so we're losing a lot of practice and mentoring opportunities for writers, which is sad.
Bring back the practice.
Bring it back. But that's why I think 1330 might be so well written. They also wrote What Women Want, which is, we talked about, the 2000 movie. And then they had a sitcom in 2006 called Big Day, which I have not heard of. And they have been doing a spinoff for The King of Queens more recently, Kevin Can Wait, but I don't know if that actually ever came out. So really 13 Going on 30 might be their calling card.
Yeah. I've noticed that with a lot of movies that I reviewed on my channel, where it seems like the only notable movie that the person wrote was the movie I was covering.
That's crazy. I think it's hard out there for feature writing, I think.
There's an exception though, when we talked about Freaky Friday, that Mean Girls is his other directed movie, which is
right.
Well, yeah, because he was a director.
The Pink movie. Oh, but writer specifically, I see.
Yeah.
But I guess directors too. I mean, I've seen that a lot, but I feel like it's really prevalent with writers. But I loved The King of Queens too.
I never really watched
up.
it. Did you watch it, Joe?
Not like actively, but when it was on, I'd always watch it. I love Leia Remini specifically.
She's so funny.
Her powerful story of getting out of Scientology. I also watched that.
Oh yeah,
series.
I have seen that.
Oh yeah, of course. With that,
it looks like the director was also most well known for 13 Going on 30. Gary Winnick is the director, and then Charlotte's Web in 2006. I think that was the Dakota Fanning remake, which I did see.
I never saw
in theaters, and I did enjoy it.
What else is on the agenda?
Let's see. What else can we kind of dive into? Well, maybe we should just kind of back up to you mentioned the thriller scene. And one thing that always stood out to me in that scene, and which apparently I saw some information about this, the dress she wears, like multicolored green, purple dress with the like crazy messy bun, which I feel like I've had hair like that, but it hasn't been intentional. Do you know what I mean? Mm. And then the butterfly necklace, I was really into that look back then. Apparently people are trying to recreate it on TikTok.
I didn't see anyone try and I think I did see people try and recreate it during Halloween.
Oh, well, that makes more sense.
But I think that was an interesting choice. Let's dive into that a little bit, because Jenna was 13. She was 13 in the 80s, and she wakes up and she's 30. I don't know. Would she have picked that look?
I was wondering the same thing, because if they first start showing her trying on makeup and she's playing with all the makeup, and it looks like she's going to do some kind of 80s, like very bright colors that would have like been really out of step with the times, but then she dials it down and wears normal makeup. So I was kind of surprised that she didn't try and look like Madonna or something.
Because I don't know. I almost think they should have made her look kind of more ridiculous. I know that the movie was trying to make that look a little ridiculous. It wasn't to me. Like it wouldn't have been the look that I would have chosen, but she should have like teased her hair and put on a bunch of blue eyeshadow and like, you know, the stuff that you do when you're 13.
Because that's what she did in the past. Like she had normal bangs and then she like curled them for the party. She wore like a scrunchie and had like a side ponytail. So it's kind of surprising.
She should have dressed like a crackhead, kind of. I think that would have made a little bit more sense.
I guess they wanted her to have a success moment instead of a failure moment in that scene with the Thriller dance. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like her outfit is such a statement piece of the movie. Like I'm amazed by it. But you bringing this up, I think, is a really interesting point. And I definitely think there's a world where they could have teased the like fish out of water elements a lot more down to like the costuming. And like I think they were looking at more through the lens of like a girl in 2004, if she like was in like a 30-year-old's like closet who had like every outfit you could imagine, that's kind of what she would. It was like a modern child picked it out in a way. Whereas your point of like someone from like an 80s child would have picked, with no context of the current style, would have picked something different. I think there's missing opportunities for jokes definitely in there.
It's interesting because there is this trope, and I forget what it's called. It might be like Pretty Baby or something like that, but it happens a lot in sci-fi films where a woman, like maybe it's an alien, maybe it's a robot or something like that, wakes up, has no knowledge of the world, and is acting kind of like a child would, with childlike wonderment, but they're very, very sexy. And then they encounter some sort of man, and the attraction here is that the man gets to seem like the most interesting, most intelligent, most competent person in the world to this woman. So it's sort of like a male fantasy. And I feel like they're obviously...
Oh, is that Matt?
Well, that would be the trope, but the way they didn't really do it because they didn't play up the fish out of water elements. And so I think it's interesting. The film's written by a man and a woman, and I wonder if that was something they were conscious of. Because I was thinking about it when it started, if there was going to be more of that, like, I am so lost and confused, and this man is going to help me, and when I'm confused, I'm super sexy. You know? Like, there's a lot of scenes of, like, robots or aliens, like, here, change to these clothes. And then they start trying to strip in front of them because they have no sense of like privacy. And then the guy's like, oh, no, don't do that. Anyway.
I will say, I don't think that there was a single scene where Jenna was supposed to be sexy.
No, I don't think so either.
As far as like me watching it, I never felt that at all. And I'm happy that that's the case, because that would be really, really weird if that was. When we're talking about the fish out of water, I think they did a really good job when she first wakes up and she goes to work in like the lingerie.
Yeah.
That was great.
Like that is perfect, because she has no idea that what she's wearing, and she shows us to work and everyone thinks that she's doing it on purpose. So that to me is so funny. So I feel like they could have done that more a little bit.
They could have towed the line a little bit, I guess.
And also her being in New York also helps too, because she doesn't have to have a vehicle, that she can just be driven everywhere.
Totally.
So
of course.
There's a lot of things that kind of let you assume how she's getting from point A to point B and figuring this out. Because if I was 13, I wouldn't know what to do.
I do appreciate when I watch this movie. So when Jenna first becomes a 30-year-old, she wakes up in an apartment and there's a man in the house. She doesn't know who he is. She's really scared. She like in a mad dash while she's still like in her like lingerie outfit, like sprints outside, grabs a coat, just trying to escape. And then Tom just happens to be outside with the car waiting to go to work. And so I was like, oh wow, like Jenna's this high level executive and Tom's her assistant. But then we get to the office and they're like coworkers. And so I was like, interesting that they're like carpooling to work with like a driver every day.
I guess so. Yeah. Would they really be doing that? I figured they were so close that's why they liked spending the extra time together.
It set up a different dynamic, and I was surprised to discover that Tom was from the clique from her childhood. And I do kind of wish, I probably maybe what Judy Greer is like talking to with the roles that she always gets, but I thought it'd been more fun if she just got to be along was kind of just didn't realize, just thought that Jenna was her crazy friend and
never noticed.
And wish it didn't turn into this like Sigourney Weaver, like stealing.
I kind of liked
the
it.
Melanie Griffith idea. I kind of
liked it. Because even though you're right, I would love to see more female friendship in film. I enjoyed that she was like the best friend who had something to do. You know, like she had her own little motives. Villain arc, and I kind of liked that.
And I guess it makes sense of it because Jenna was also awful, so they bonded.
Do you think that they would have stayed? Do you think that she would have backstabbed her if Jenna was her regular self? Like, do you think that she only backstabbed her because Jenna was like a good person now?
I think that Jenna, if she had been her regular self, would never have come up with that idea because she wouldn't have believed that authenticity or seeing real people in print would have been appealing at all to.
Well, and she already sold herself out to the competitor magazine. Like she already had plans to leave. So it didn't really matter. She would have left.
And Tom took that. She's like, yeah, you're an asshole for...
Yes.
Trying to sell out the company. So like, I'm just going to do it instead because you've already done it.
And I guess for context, I don't think we ever said for anyone listening, in the movie, she works for Poise magazine. The other magazine is always beating them. They're always putting very famous, beautiful, glamorous people on the cover. And the idea is to lean into what's popular. But then later on in the film, Jenna kind of in thinking through life and being around Matt more often, who's a photographer, realizes that photographing real people and normal looking women, people with authentic life stories might be more appealing to their audience. So she gives this like heartwarming pitch about how that's what we need to see in print, which is certainly fantastical. And
that was the only moment of the film where I was like, shut up.
I
love Jennifer Garner, but she was just being like so cutesy. And
you do have a thing about cutesiness sometimes.
What, you're just going to make a yearbook every
Yeah, exactly. She's like, I just was thinking back to my yearbook years.
But for young girls, it's a good message.
It is.
It was cute. But well, it's important to point out for the viewers watching this. So the other magazine was stealing their ideas.
Yes.
Right? They thought they were. So
what's it called? What was the other competitor magazine called? Do we remember? Sparkle.
Yeah. So there's actually a scene in the conference room is earlier on the movie, and you can see like the Poise magazine on the one side and the Sparkle magazine on the other, and they're both the same celebrity and the same
Jennifer
shot,
Lopez.
Really. Yeah. It's every single issue. And they're always like, they're basically copying them completely. Mm-hmm. And so
the competitors copying Poise.
Yeah. And the movie kind of falls apart when Jenna has this amazing idea, like you were talking about, Allison, where they go in a completely different route. They make it look like a high school yearbook. It's super fun. Everybody's laughing and everything. And all of those pictures end up showing up in Sparkle's magazine.
Right.
And Poise is basically like dissolving. And it's because we find out Jenna has been selling Poise's ideas this entire time. She's been the reason why they kept stealing their ideas, because Jenna was selling it to them.
She made a deal to become editor-in-chief at Sparkle.
Yeah.
Yikes.
She wasn't a very good person.
Who knew that just one time getting bullied, you could really do a heel turn and grow up to be terrible.
The beginning of her enemy arc.
Yeah. I also want to say, I think, when they were doing the two presentations and we're supposed to hate Tom's presentation, I thought it slayed. Where it's like, this is fashion suicide. I'm like, let's go. I'm ready.
It cracked me up that it was like on like a little teleprompter. Like the video was playing on a teleprompter. And then for dramatic purposes, Tom walks in front of the projector so you can't see the images anymore as she's like pitching the idea.
I thought it was great.
I liked
it. Was
badass.
badass.
It was the kind of thing where it was a backdrop, like she was in cool lighting.
Yeah.
I liked that.
Yeah, you're not going to gaslight me into thinking that that's somehow ugly and bad. I'd buy that magazine. I don't know.
She's going places. Well, fortunately, she's going to become the editor-in-chief at Sparkle.
So she'll get to be out there in the world.
Continue.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to bring up about the Thriller scene was that apparently Mark Ruffalo almost quit the movie over it.
What?
He didn't want to dance. He was quoted, I mean, I don't know how serious this is, but he's quoted saying, I almost quit the movie over that. It was so embarrassing. I was like, I can't do this. I'm so bad at dancing. But Jennifer and Judy were great, so I had to just go for it. I'm so surprised by that. I feel like if you're an actor, you're going to be asked to do things.
And he was in that period where he was in a lot of romantic comedies. He was also with, like a few years later, with Reese Witherspoon in Just Like Heaven. Like I think he was doing.
There's no way he almost quit.
Yeah,
I think he's
I wonder if it was a little more like
exaggerating.
tongue-in-cheek.
That's like I saw that a couple times that people were saying that that's the rumor that he almost quit the movie, but that does seem a little extreme.
Mark Ruffalo's
That's something
also,
I would joke about.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe.
surprised.
Oh, I can't dance. I almost quit the movie.
Yeah. So we watched this like 2 days ago, and I was commenting to Allison, especially like with Mark Ruffalo's outfits. I was like, it's crazy watching this movie because now a lot of the stuff is coming back in fashion, like the super baggy jeans. I feel a lot of what like Jennifer Garner was wearing. Like, oh, Allison was also at the beginning of the movie. Allison's like,
No,
she's wearing at the end. She's wearing low rise jeans, and I hate low rise jeans. They're coming back in fashion. And then at the end of the movie, Allison,
Are they?
Yeah. And then Allison was like, actually, I've gone from hating these low rise jeans to loving them.
So great on her. No, it's the whole last sequence. She's wearing these jeans that are like very low, and then they like are kind of like very well fitted, and they flare at the end. And I just saw how low they were. And I'm like, this is awful. But then she was like running all around that house to try and find Maddie, and then running next door with the dollhouse. And I was like, actually, those jeans rock. Oh my gosh, they look so good on her. Maybe I do like low rise jeans.
On her?
Yeah, on her. There are some questions I could ask. If we were to wake up in a different time in our life, what age would you choose and why?
Are you going to go first, Joe, or am I going to go first? Because I don't know yet.
Do we have to go to the future? Or
No
past,
rules.
so?
No rules.
I'll go forward. I'll choose an interesting answer. I'll go to 60.
Whoa.
60.
34 going on 60 would be my movie.
And why?
And I'd go and analyze and just see what all my decisions that I made in life, because I feel like I like who I am right now, and I'd be curious to see how that pays off in the end. Or if I need to switch gears, become a little more like evil Jennifer Garner before she 13-year-old enters the picture.
Okay.
Casey, what about you?
I think maybe 40 or 45.
And why?
I just feel like, I don't know. I envision my 40s as like the best years of my life.
I'm with you on that.
Because I used to not view it that way. I used to think that my 30s or like my mid 20s was going to be like when I figured things out and do a bunch of things. But I just feel like when you're in your 40s or 50s even, I don't know, you're supposed to be a little bit more financially stable. You've kind of figured things out. I don't know, maybe some investments pay off and I can just kind of travel more and do things. So I view your 40s as like, if you didn't screw up too bad, then you can do a little bit more in your life than you could when you were in your mid 20s or mid 30s.
So kind of the same way that in the 2004 version, Jenna pictures that 30s, like that point in your life where you're going to have the most fun. You're kind of saying,
I guess you can't do that anymore now.
Well, in today's age, you're saying
it's different.
40 to 45 is now the range.
Yeah, it's like later.
The best.
Yeah.
We never have fun. That's the secret. Just kidding. We have so much fun. Well, I'll switch it up. I think that I would not want to fast forward any of my life because I just don't want to miss any of it. You know what I mean? So.
Well, you get the magic dust to go back. You're not stuck there forever.
I am going to go back. I think I would go back.
Well, no, I mean all of us. I just want to clarify.
Oh, you're going to go back.
I'm going to 60. Casey's going to 40 to 45. We see how that pans out. Then we go back to our current ages.
But I want the surprises of life. Like I don't want to know. You know,
that's fine.
I don't
want to know what's going to happen to me. I want to figure it out along the way. But I would go back maybe to like a high school age because I feel like I was very like shy and quiet back then. So it'd be nice to go back with my current personality and just experience like life as a younger person with who I am now and see what that would have been like, not for very long, like a week or two. Because I don't want to do too much homework. No, thank you. Because I still would care about my homework. So then I'd want to come back to the present.
I have a funny story that I can't remember if I told y'all or not. but I wrote a letter to myself when I was 18 years old to open up 10 years into the future.
Whoa.
And I opened it up like 5 months ago.
Whoa. Okay. How was the experience?
Okay. So the original thought was like, oh, I'll film myself opening this and it'll be like a funny, cute little video. And I open the letter and I just start bawling myself.
Oh my gosh.
And so like I have this video filmed and like I don't know if I'm ever gonna show it to anybody.
Yeah.
But it was so interesting like reading this letter of from me as an 18-year-old talking to 28-year-old me. And it was just interesting because I kind of predicted how my life was gonna be.
Whoa, that's awesome.
What was interesting is I was kind of forgiving of myself a little bit. I was worried that I was going to open this up this letter and it'd be like, oh my God, are you like famous now? Are you like super rich? But I was like, have you lost your job recently? Like it's totally fine. Like everything's going to be okay.
You're so sweet.
And I know that you're with your husband now and like your life is great. And like, you know, it's okay if you don't have like a lot of money, like your life is worth it. Like, I'm like, how did I know all of these things when I was 18 years old? So
that's moving to me.
It's very rewarding to write a letter to yourself 10 years in the future. Just expect yourself to start crying if you do that. If you decide to do that.
I actually had to do that once in high school. We would go on these retreats and have to write letters to ourselves freshman, sophomore, junior year. And then as seniors, we got the letters back.
I think we did that too, actually.
But I don't really remember.
I don't remember mine.
I don't remember the impact on me, but I thought it was a cool idea. And then this year I wanted to start a tradition where I wrote a letter at the new year to myself that I would open in 2026. But I didn't finish the letter, so I don't know. I'm gonna still try and do that, but anyway, I think it's a good idea. It's like it's a nice tool of reflection, and you know, it's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so awesome to hear that you did that. When you reread it, did you like remember writing it, or was it kind of like a stranger wrote this? Like obviously it's yourself, but did it kind of feel like someone else wrote this letter to you?
When I read that letter, did I feel like a stranger wrote it, or did I remember writing it? There were bits and parts of it that I remember writing, but I also remember what my mindset was for most of my teenage years. And I had this idealized version of what being an adult would be. I thought that I would run some kind of, successful business, or that I would be like a famous star or something. I wanted to do YouTube when I was a teenager.
That's amazing.
Really bad. So I just thought I would see elements of that in there. And I think that I was super emotional because when I was 18, I don't know what kind of switch flipped in my head, but I saw myself in the future as just a regular person. And so I think that's what made me really emotional.
I understand that. Yeah.
Like I gave myself a lot of grace, more grace than I thought I would at 18. So I was just bawling. I couldn't even speak. And so that video, unless I'm really desperate for some cash, I don't know if I'm going to post.
And that is totally within your right.
But that's my 13 going on 30 moment. 18 going on 28, I guess you could say.
That's awesome. Now I'm sad I didn't write a letter to myself at 18 to open.
But you could write one now and open it when you're 60 or
it's a great idea.
45 or whatever. And I think it would have just as much impact.
All right, what's the last question on your
Okay, let's see. Let me pick a good one. Okay, we asked this last time for Freaky Friday. I thought it was really fun. Like, if we were going to remake 13 Going on 30 today, who would you cast and how would it be, like, how, if at all, would it be different? And would it be, so 13 years ago was 2014, 13, 12, 2011. So the kid would be a 2011 kid, right? 2011 plus 13 is 2024.
And so we'd pick someone who's 30 right now to star in it.
I don't know.
It doesn't have to be 30, but
13 right now. I don't know who's popular. I don't watch Disney Channel.
Well,
I don't know.
You know what? I guess to be fair, the movie itself came out in the 2000s, but it was set in the 80s, and the writers you can do it however you want, like whatever. It could be the 90s to today.
Who'd be the 30-year-old?
She's not 30.
She's 40.
She's 40. That sounds like a Barb and Star. What was that? Where they were making up a character? She loves Halloween, and her favorite day of the week is Tuesday. I would choose Raven Simone because I want to see her back starring in something.
That'd be cool.
And I think it would be fun.
That was a good choice.
It would be nostalgia more for like probably the mid to late 2000s, but like that's what I want to see that. And I just want to see Raven being a starring vehicle again.
I think it's really smart to pick someone who was a child star.
And I would play with because she's queer, I'd play with like the queer element.
Yeah.
Also of who they picture themselves when they're younger and as they are as an adult, more accepting.
Oh my God, that's a good idea. Maybe she's a 13-year-old or whatever, and she doesn't realize that she's a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's one of the things that's surprising when she's an adult.
Yeah,
like,
that would be awesome.
What do you mean? and Raven Simone, she has so much physical comedy.
Yeah,
so
she'd be great.
That's actually perfect.
I was like pretty genius. I don't think we can top it.
Okay. We all choose Raven.
I like Raven. I think we're gonna go with Raven, and I think it'd be cool to see the 2000s, like what that part of the movie would look like.
Yeah, absolutely. My only thought, this is kind of a darker thought, would be like, this movie is so of the 2000s, and like Jenna wakes up and she has like a great apartment, a great job, can spend a ton of money on everything that she wants. And I don't know if that's really the reality of living in New York City or really the reality for a lot of 30-somethings today. So I'd be curious how the economics of that would come into play. Would it say like a wish fulfillment type movie, or would maybe part of the movie be like, oh, shoot, it's kind of hard to survive out there?
I think it depends on who would be in charge of the movie.
Yeah.
And how privileged they are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think that if it was through the lens of a regular person, I think that it would be still funny.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think that it would be like a sad movie. I think it would make jokes about the norms of our lives.
I would hope so, because it's just too it's too uplifting of a film. I think for it to be dragged down by our New York City always and forever.
Well, so, because how else would you get past the part about
the car?
The fact that she can't drive.
That's a good point. Maybe she wakes up and she's 30 and she has like 4 roommates, and at first she's horrified, but then she comes to see how the bond between them is so strong and beautiful, and something.
I like that.
I need to be more prepared when you ask that question in the future, because I was like, I should have known you asked that.
For our next Pink movie, we'll prepare you with some questions.
Okay. For the next one, I'll probably always ask that question, I think, if I remember.
I think that should be the tradition.
I think so. Oh, I love this.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Casey, thank you so much for joining us on another Pink movie. Any upcoming videos that you're excited about that you're going to be sharing on your channel?
I'm working on one right now about, what is it? This really bad Amanda Bynes movie.
I've never seen it.
Don't see it. It's not good. There's a reason why you've never heard of it. But I'm ranting a lot in that video. But no, just happy to be here. And as always, super fun talking about movies with y'all.
I completely agree.
It was so much fun. Queer Cinema Catch Up is the podcast where we talk about movies, TV, and miscellaneous topics through a queer lens. I'm Joe.
And I'm Allison.
Casey, once again, thank you so much for joining us for another Pink movie.
And please check out Casey's YouTube channel, Sassy Grilled Cheese.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.